As you travel through the open plains, you come to a fork in the road.
Is it a metal fork?
What? No, Nepal. That just means that the path splits. You can go left or right. Which do you choose?
Whichever one the fork's on. I'm getting hungry.
Nepal. We've all heard the story of the DM who offers the players a choice between two paths leading out of town. But regardless of which path the players choose, their destination is the same. It's a tired old story, yet it's also understandable from the DM's perspective. Designing a city for the player characters to visit is difficult enough on its own. But two cities? It's so much simpler to let the players think they have a choice than to actually give them one. But it doesn't have to be that way. Player choices are important in an adventure. Without them, the DM might as well write a book, since choices in such a game are merely verbal illusions. Yet the downside to creating real choices for the PCs is doubling the workload for the DM by creating two or more different outcomes. So how can DMs create such meaningful choices without overwhelming themselves in the process? Enter the Crossroads Encounter. At its core, a Crossroads Encounter is a choice. Yet unlike the cliched story I mentioned earlier, this choice is presented in a way that demonstrates to players that each outcome is different, and at least some of those differences are obvious enough to be seen from the start, usually in the form of environmental clues or NPC dialogue. Let's look at an example of this type of encounter in play. The party is deep in the jungle when they enter a mysterious cave. Almost immediately after entering, the path splits. The right path is choked with heavy vines where the roof of the cave has split open, allowing the thick jungle vegetation to enter the cave. To the left is a deeper passage where gouts of flame erupt from cracks in the floor and bubbling lava can be heard from farther down the passage. Which path will the party take? If there is a druid or nature cleric in the group, they may head to the right, believing they can overcome whatever plant-based hazards or monsters they might face. If, however, the party includes characters capable of resisting fire damage or manipulating flame, such as a pyromancer, they may choose the left path instead. One important detail to keep in mind when using a Crossroads encounter is to be impartial when presenting each option. List the pros, cons, and theme of each choice, and then let the players decide which one is most appropriate for them. There are several options for DMs who want to utilize the Crossroads encounter in their adventures. One of the best times to do so is at the start of a campaign when you generally have more time to prepare. If you're planning to run a sandbox game, or at least want to give the party several starting options to get the campaign rolling, introduce a Crossroads encounter early in the first adventure. This is exactly what I did to start my Unrest campaign. The party began in the frontier town of Belmont, situated along the northern border of the nation to protect against the savage mountain tribes. Due to recent events, those tribes were poised to attack. To prepare for this eventuality, the town mayor called on all able-bodied individuals to report to the Royal Army Colonel in Belmont to help defend the town. When the party met with the Colonel, they were given three options. The pass north was already guarded by the Royal Army, so patrols were being sent out to the eastern scrublands and to the western woods. The scrublands were wide open, which meant easier travel for a large force, yet such a group would also be easier to spot. Thus, eastern patrols would provide reconnaissance for the army and give early warnings should such a large troop movement be detected. The western woods were more rugged, difficult for large troop movement, but providing enough cover for smaller warbands to enter the region undetected. Western patrols would therefore have to scour the woods and may come in direct conflict with the enemy. Should the party wish to remain in town, they would be assigned to the stockade, where they would fill in for soldiers that had been moved to the wall to provide extra defense for the town. This particular adventure was detailed in my first 5-Room Dungeons video, The Stockade. Another option for introducing a Crossroads encounter is a one-time only choice. Such a decision may involve the party allying themselves with one of two rival factions, or determining the best path to take to outrun a horde of marauding barbarians. However, sometimes a Crossroads encounter can be revisited, and another option chosen at a later date. This can be true of a sandbox game where several nearby dungeons have been presented to the party. After clearing one dungeon, they can return to town, sell their loot and restock supplies, then move on to the next. As a DM, you need only adjust the difficulty of the encounters to continue to challenge your players. Crossroads encounters do a great job of giving players more meaningful options, but they also have the downside of adding more work for the DM. This doesn't have to be the case though. Several design strategies can minimize your workload while still giving players plenty of choices within your game. Let's look back at the original example of the DM who offers the players a choice of 2 roads to take, but only has one city prepared for them to visit, and rework it into a Crossroads encounter. This is what I call 2 paths, 1 goal. Instead of letting the players believe that there are 2 different cities at the end of each road, the DM simply tells the party that both roads lead to the same destination, but the roads themselves are quite different. One path is short and goes directly through the nearby woods, yet those woods are filled with deadly beasts and cutthroat bandits. Such a trek would be quite dangerous. On the other hand, the second road curves out of the woods and takes several days to travel, but is much safer and more heavily traveled. There, the party would likely encounter other travelers or merchant caravans and may hear recent rumors about their destination. Using this design allows a DM to present a single goal to the players while still giving them options on how to best reach that goal. Another method for reducing your workload when preparing a Crossroads encounter is to use a twin framework design. For this design, plan out the types of encounters you want to use on each step of the path, as well as any game mechanics necessary for each encounter. Then duplicate those encounters on the other path, but with a different theme. John 4's 5-room dungeon model is a great tool for this. Let's go back to the jungle cave example from earlier to demonstrate this method. For the vine path, we'll first introduce a social encounter. Lizard folk have taken up residence here and worship some fearsome creature deeper in the cave. In order to pass them without battling the entire tribe, the party must make an offering to their god. To mirror this in the lava passage, fire dwarves are mining within the cave and have built a small outpost here. Before they will let the party through, the group will have to pay a toll. Farther down the vine path, the party must deal with animated plants that attempt to strangle or poison the group. In the lava passage, pools of lava block the path forward. The party can traverse these pools by leaping from one small basalt island to another, but they must also deal with flame geysers in the area that activate randomly. Beyond the animated plants is the final battle in the vine path, a shambling mound. At the end of the lava passage is a fire elemental, and after defeating the boss monster, the players will find a treasure trove that could contain items such as a staff of the woodlands or wand of fireballs. By using this method to design your adventures following a Crossroads encounter, the mechanics of each encounter need only be handled once, and then reskinned for any other paths you've included. As a final option for DMs who truly want to make each encounter unique, consider this. Knowing that one path of your adventure will not be seen by the players, don't discard these encounters once the adventure is over. Instead, save them for a rainy day. If your players have never encountered a particular situation in your game world before, they'll never know that it was recycled from a previous adventure. Be aware that this isn't the same thing as the story mentioned at the beginning of this video. You aren't dropping the same encounter or location in front of the players regardless of which path they choose. Rather, you're adapting an old encounter for use in a new but equally appropriate situation. DMs should also be aware that this method of recycling encounters, locations, and NPCs spans not only adventures, but also campaigns. Several years ago, I ran a campaign entitled The Bakery, where the party closed a portal near their hometown that led to an alternate dimension. Once the portal was closed, I had planned to replace it with a new portal opened by a Sea Devil wizard from the elemental plane of water, who was seeking allies in the PC's world. Unfortunately, the party moved on to the capital and continued their adventure there, rendering this encounter useless. I kept the Sea Devil wizard in mind, and only a few adventures into my Unrest campaign, I was able to introduce him to the party. From there, he became a recurring character, allowing me to reuse my previous work and preventing it from going to waste. This can also be true of any unused work you put into a Crossroads encounter. Don't throw it away, just save it for later. That does it for this episode. I hope you'll consider using Crossroads encounters in some of your next adventures to give your players more meaningful, well-thought-out choices. Until then, I'm David Watches.
And I'm Napoleon Diaz.
And thanks for watching. Special thanks to my longtime friend Bill Batchelor for creating the logo for this channel, and to Dylan Smith for the character art used in this and other videos. I couldn't have done it without them.
For more D&D tips, check out these hot videos.